Hi guys, my name is Jennifer and I'm going to be reviewing the season finale of Timeless. And wow, that was actually quite a finale. So I'm really hoping that they bring it back for season 2. Nothing's guaranteed yet, but I think with all the cliffhangers that they left, they definitely need to bring it back. So I'm going to start with a recap of the finale. So this is actually a really exciting episode. It was quite intense because, especially in a first season of a show, you never know what's going to happen or what's going to change, especially characters. Like, sometimes new motives are revealed and who you think are the good guys turn out to be the bad guys. So I was quite on edge about that. So let me start with the beginning of the episode. It was actually a really different beginning that we've ever gotten, really. What happens is we see Garcia Flynn, and we actually assume it's in the present time, but we actually see him with his family. So this was clearly years ago, and it's actually really heartbreaking, honestly, because you kind of see what he lost and how different he used to be. Like, he didn't just lose his family, but he also lost who he was as a man. He used to be a really caring father, and he really, really loved his family, and it was kind of heartbreaking to see that. But I liked that we opened with that because we really finally got an idea of where he's coming from. Not just him telling us, this is what happened, they took this away from me, we actually see it. So I really liked that they opened with that. So back to the present, he's planning to go back to, I believe the year was 1954, and this was during the Red Scare, which was a whole, we like to call it a witch hunt for communists. That's what we called it in school. And Joseph McCarthy, sorry. wrong last name. Joseph McCarthy was in charge of all of these arrests, basically. He was hunting down anybody who seemed like a communist. And it's almost kind of like a history repeats itself kind of thing, and boy, it sure does. Anyway, so what happens is he goes back to that time, and he's trying to end Rittenhouse all at once because they all have this summit that they're going to be at, and this is the best way he can think of to get rid of them for good. So that's his plan for the episode. We get back to Lucy, Wyatt, and Rufus, and they're back in the warehouse where Agent Christopher is. Rufus, thankfully, is still alive, which I knew they couldn't get rid of him, because he is a main character. He's the heart of the show. Part of the heart of the show, because the others are too. But they cannot get rid of him. And I don't know how Gia got there, Rufus's girlfriend, because she was last seen at Mason Industries and they were kind of keeping her locked up, so I have no idea how she even got there, really. They might have mentioned it, but I missed it. So they're trying to figure out what to do with Rufus, and Lucy calls her fake fiance because he appeared randomly after one of their trips, and she does not recall at all being engaged to him. And so they took some time apart, and it's been a while since we've seen him. So he comes over and he helps out Rufus a little bit, but it's not enough. He still thinks they should take him to a hospital, which is not a good idea because Rittenhouse can track them down very easily if they do that. So basically they brush that off, and Lucy kind of breaks up with her fake fiance, and that's where that story ends for now. So they all have a plan that they should try to stop Garcia Flynn, but right before they leave, they're determining if they can take 4 people in the time machine because they've only built it for 3. And so the question is if Gia can actually survive being in there, since Rufus needs a co-pilot and she's learned most of what she needs to know. So that is up for debate. All of a sudden, Rittenhouse finds them, and they manage to escape just in time. And Agent Christopher is taken in by Rittenhouse. So they go back to 1954, and Gia seems okay at first, but then Rufus notices that she has a bloodshot eye, which that could happen at any random time, really. So she brushes it off as nothing, really. Unfortunately, that's not the end of that story, but we'll get back to that. So meanwhile, Garcia Flynn has found Joseph McCarthy, and he manages to get information about the Rittenhouse Summit. And right before he leaves, he gives him 2 pictures, of course, Lucy and Wyatt, and tells them that they're communists. So that instantly leads to their arrest the second they come into view. So what happens is they are in separate rooms. Flynn actually finds Lucy and he explains what he's going to do. And he tells her that killing all of the Rittenhouse members includes killing her grandfather, Eddie Cahill, I believe is his name. And so he actually doesn't seem terribly conflicted about that, because that could mean her existence is in jeopardy. But we actually learn later that her father is actually born already, so that technically would not have been a problem, but yeah, we'll get back to that. So what happens is Wyatt manages to escape, he finds Lucy, and they get out of there, and their main goal is to find Eddie Cahill, and they believe he'll lead them to the summit of Rittenhouse members. However, he actually leads them to a gay bar, and that's one of his secrets. Not that he's a Rittenhouse member, but that he is gay. So he's afraid that they're there to expose that secret because he already has a family, but they tell him that they just want to bring down Rittenhouse and stop Garcia Flynn. So he agrees to help them, and at this point Lucy hasn't told him that she's his granddaughter, so I'm actually quite surprised that they were able to convince him at all to help. But he actually is a very resistant Rittenhouse member, so that's kind of how he's willing to help. So they get to the house where the summit is being held, and they find Garcia Flynn. What happens is Lucy manages to talk to him and tell him that she has another way of stopping Rittenhouse, and he actually, amazingly, believes her, and he does not blow up the house like he was going to, and she actually convinces him to stop ruining history, because that is all he's really been doing. And yeah, she's actually got him on their side for once. Something I actually didn't think was possible, but it actually was. So they return to the time machine. Gia has experienced some really bad symptoms. She not only had the bloodshot eye, but she passed out and she had seizures, and that's really, really not good. So they have to get her back to the present as soon as possible. Lucy decides to stay behind because she can go back with Flynn in his time machine. So Wyatt, Rufus, and Gia head back. And this was a moment when I was afraid. I just got a little paranoid. I thought Lucy might turn on Garcia Flynn or something, because sometimes they like to have those big plot twists. I was so relieved, though, because I really don't want her to be a bad character. She actually ends up telling Eddie Cahill that she's his granddaughter, and she explains everything about what's going on in the present, and he actually believes her, and he decides to help them. He'll collect information over the years about Rittenhouse, and in the future they'll be able to find it. and that way they can take down Rittenhouse in the present. And that sounds like a better plan than killing everybody at once. So we jump ahead in time to the present, and we're in I guess it's a rest home where Eddie Cahill is now. So Lucy and Wyatt enter, and they talk to him, and the scene was really heartbreaking to me because Lucy never really got to know her grandfather, and just the recognition when he sees her is just so well done. It's beautiful, and you realize they never really got to be a family, but at the same time they managed to find a way to help each other, and it was just, the scene was so beautiful. I actually had tears in my eyes. Because the way her father turned out, I was afraid her grandfather was going to be the same, but he actually turned out to be a true family member, and that was really nice. So he manages to give them the address where he kept all of the information, and they're able to find enough information to convict all of the current Rittenhouse members. So that was a happy ending. And we continue to see what's going on with all of the loose ends that they had. So Rufus and Gia, they're at the hospital. Gia's still recovering, but she seems okay. And they say that they love each other, which is a really nice scene. Unfortunately, at that moment, Gia has a seizure, but at the same time she has a vision, and outside you can see the Golden Gate Bridge. All of a sudden, during her vision, you see like a destroyed Golden Gate Bridge, and just everything looks like chaos outside. And when she comes back, everything looks normal again. So we don't know what that effect is. It seems like she can have premonitions now about the future. And that's kind of an interesting side effect from time traveling. So I'm curious to see if they get a second season, if they continue with that, because I think that'll be a very interesting subplot if they decide to go with that. But yeah, that was actually really interesting. So everything's back to normal at Mason Industries. Mason actually turned out to be a good guy. He helped everybody, and he's in charge again. So they actually have a chance to take the time machine one last time to go save Lucy's sister, because that has been up in the air the whole season, like ever since episode 1. And Lucy's very excited because there's a chance finally that she's going to get her sister back. And right before she leaves, she wants to go talk to her mother because bringing her sister back could mean that she's not going to be around anymore. But before we get to that, Lucy and Wyatt actually have this really nice scene between each other. Like, I really thought, like, I know it would have been a cliche to have them get together in this episode, but there were moments where I was like, oh, they're gonna kiss, no. But it was actually really sweet. You see how much they've grown as characters and as a team, and it's a really nice evolution. I really enjoyed watching that. Watching them come together after being at odds. So it was actually it was a nice journey throughout season 1 to see their characters come together and really become a team. So there's still a potential that they could get together, but we'll see. Because season 2 is still up in the air. I hope it happens. Another point before I get to the ending, Garcia Flynn and Lucy actually seem like good friends at one point. She gives him the information of the Rittenhouse members that killed his family, so that way he can actually just take care of them without destroying everything. And that way his family has a chance to come back and be alive. Unfortunately, before he has a chance to go do that, Agent Christopher has him arrested, and Garcia Flynn thinks that Lucy set him up. And that really isn't the case, but you know, he's a very rash man and he's not going to believe that. So he's still a potential villain for season 2 because now he has this grudge, thinking that Lucy sold him out. Unfortunately not the case, but it's always something to get in the way of their friendship, you know. I actually thought they were gonna team up, but she actually figured out a way for that not to happen while still working together. Unfortunately now, this doesn't quite look possible. Not that I wanted it to be, but he's still a potential villain for the next season. So we'll see where that goes. Oh, and he also gave her the journal, and she supposedly gives it to him in the future, but I honestly don't see how that's going to happen now. Anything's possible. Things always find a way to happen, as we've seen in history. So, to get to the ending, what happens is Lucy goes to her mother and she's apologizing to her that she might not see her because she needs to get her sister back. Her mother still doesn't think that this woman exists, but Lucy tells her about her sister and how unfortunately, the mother is going to be very sick during the lifetime of the sister, and there's a chance that the mother won't make it back. So Lucy's very sad about that, and she tells her mother that she loves her, and it seems like a really emotional scene. But that quickly changes when her mother says, Rittenhouse won't let that happen. And Lucy looks at her and she's like, what? You're a part of Rittenhouse, basically. And basically her mother confirms, like, how do you think your father and I met? We were both from really good Rittenhouse families, which makes Lucy royalty. And Lucy's just in awe of this because, well, we included never expected this. We thought it was just the father, and that would make sense because they were separated. Lucy never knew her father. So this is quite an interesting twist. And that makes us believe, so this was Rittenhouse's plan all along to bring back Lucy's mother. It wasn't just an accident. Although I still wonder why the fake fiance just suddenly appeared, but I don't know if we'll get back to that or not. So yeah, Lucy is stuck in that moment where she doesn't know how to react to this, and now there's probably a chance she can't go back to get her sister, maybe for a while. I don't know. So that was a really big twist, and that is where we were left till next season. I really hope we have a second season because this show is so good. It really... I know shows sometimes start out, like, especially when there's a lot to establish, they start out with not the greatest episodes or the greatest plots, but the show really evolved and it really turned into something amazing. I really hope they bring it back. I don't know how many fans there are out there, but seriously, if you guys don't watch the show, I highly recommend it. Once season 1 becomes available, watch the episodes and hope for a season 2 because the show is really good. And I think they have good potential to have a great season 2 with what we were left with. So seriously, watch it because it's really good. That's all I can say, really. And there are some loose ends that were and weren't tied up in this episode. Like Wyatt, we don't know what's going to happen with his wife, if he's actually moved on. I keep having this theory that once he decides to be with Lucy, suddenly his wife is going to be there again because something in history changes. That's my theory because things tend not to work out for characters. But I don't know. And, like, there's a lot of loose ends they still have up in the air that we didn't get answers to. So I'm really, really hoping for season 2. I hope you guys enjoyed the season because I think it's a start of something amazing. And they're really starting to do a lot of time travel shows, which is great because it's a really interesting frontier to explore. Because there's so much potential. Like, what happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? It leads to alternative realities, which is really a lot you can explore with. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it here. This was longer than usual, but I just had a lot to wrap up with the season. And that's all I can say for now. As far as theories go, I mentioned one about Lucy and Wyatt, and I feel like Gia has a lot to explore with her interesting symptom. I guess she has premonitions now, that's my guess. And Garcia Flynn's just gonna be another season of an amazing villain because he definitely has a reason to have a grudge in his head anyway. So, yeah, we will see where we go from here. If we don't get a second season, I had a lot of fun reviewing these, and I hope you guys have a great day, and seriously, watch the show and hope that there is a season 2. I cannot stress that enough. And I will be reviewing another show called Bates Motel, if any of you guys watched that. It just premiered last night, same time as Timeless. Thank goodness for DVR. So yeah, if you watch Bates Motel, keep an eye out for my review of that. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.